Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sanya Nair, and it is my privilege to represent Ameera Syed in this case before you today. You have heard the prosecutor claim that Miss Syed was speeding, but the prosecutor's argument is based on pure speculation, as a skid mark does not prove misconduct. They have failed to prove, using physics, that my client was actually speeding. When looking at the case, one must use the facts. Miss Syed was driving a car with a mass of 1,500 kilograms and drove a total displacement of 20 meters. Using this information, one can identify the speed that she was traveling at. In the system, there is one force that contributes to work, which will be explained later by my client. That force is friction, or the opposing force causing Miss Syed to slow down. Friction is characterized as the resistance that one surface or object encounters when moving over another, in this case, the resistance between the car's tires and the highway. Every material has a certain coefficient of friction, which is the ratio between the force necessary to move one surface horizontally over another and the pressure between the two surfaces. In this case, the coefficient of friction is 0.7. In order to calculate speed, a true physicist would use the Work-Energy Theorem. Energy is a property of a system which allows tasks to be done. The transfer of energy is referred to as work. Energy is always transferred, never used, so it is a conserved property. Energy can come in various forms. In this system, it is mechanical, or created by pushing, pulling, friction, gravity, or other forms of motion. Regarding mechanical energy, there is potential and kinetic energy. Potential energy is classified as stored energy in an object at a certain position, and kinetic energy is the energy when an object moves. The Work-Energy Theorem states that the initial kinetic and potential energies plus work is equal to the final kinetic and potential energies. You will now hear testimony from Dr. Syed, who has a PhD in physics and can prove that she was in fact not speeding. We would ask you to keep an open mind and listen to all of the evidence and return a verdict of not guilty. Thank you. Could you please explain your credentials?
I have a PhD in physics.
And based on your PhD, you know how to solve Work-Energy Theorem problems, right?
Yes, I can tell you for sure that I was not speeding in reference to this incident.
What types of theorems or formulas or postulates would you use to solve this?
Well, first, for potential energy, that is calculated using mgh, where m is the mass of my car, g is the acceleration due to gravity, and h is my vertical displacement. And then kinetic energy calculated using 1/2 mv squared, where m is the car's mass and v is my velocity. Also, work is calculated using the formula F times delta x times cosine of theta equals work, where F is the applied force, in this case friction, between the cars and between the car's tires and the road, and delta x is the displacement, and theta is the angle between the displacement and the force. So first, I would have to use a work-energy theorem, which states that the initial potential energy plus the initial kinetic energy plus any non-conservative work is equal to the final potential energy plus the final kinetic energy. And in this case, there is no potential energy initially nor finally, because the vertical displacement in both situations is 0 meters, and as gravitational potential energy is measured by mgh, it would be 0 joules. So then we end up with the initial kinetic energy plus any non-conservative work is equal to 0. So kinetic energy is 1/2 mv squared plus f delta x times cosine of theta equals 0. And the force acting on the car and providing the work is the friction from the highway. So for the work, the force would be static friction. Static friction is equal to the coefficient of static friction times the normal force, and normal force is equal to mg. So then static friction is the coefficient of friction times mg, m being the mass and g being the acceleration due to gravity. Plugging everything in, we have 0.5 times m vi squared plus mu s times m times g times delta x times cosine theta equals 0. Mass can cancel out, and so then we have 0.5 times vi squared plus mu times g times delta x times cosine of theta equals 0. Plugging everything in our variables, we have 0.5 times vi squared, vi is what we're trying to find, plus 0.7, the coefficient of friction, times 9.8 for gravity, times cosine of 180 degrees, because the work done by friction is going in the opposite direction than my car's motion. And then putting everything to one side and isolating initial velocity. It calculates to be 16.565 meters per second, which is equal to 37.055 miles per hour. And so since the speed limit was 45 miles per hour in 501, and I was driving 37.055 miles per hour, I was not speeding.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have just seen the proof that proves that Miss Syed was at no fault in this situation and she was clearly following the law.